They may have a sense of themselves as a boy or a girl, but now they're questioning,
I would
right?
think it would be the pretty rare child at 5 who doesn't have a sense of at least what they have been taught. Like,
Well, even if they do.
I think it's a
yeah.
fallacy to say a 5-year-old doesn't have a gender.
Well, so let's say they
Because
do.
we live in a society that requires it.
So let's say they do, and they identify as a boy, but now they go to kindergarten and they learn this concept that most parents aren't teaching, which is, oh, you could be something else. And so now you've planted this question in their mind, like, oh, am I really? And typically what we see in the data is it's often like autistic kids and really sensitive kids and the intelligent kids. Those are the ones that are like thinking about, perseverating about, like, oh, am I really the other gender? You know, like you're planting a seed that wouldn't normally be there, and so that's the danger in it. What
Is
I'm
it
saying.
dangerous though? Or is it kind of like, let them ask and they'll come to the answer?
So
I mean,
it
is it
is
dangerous?
dangerous to plant an idea that is likely to be
Like you
false.
might like soccer. Well, maybe I'll like soccer. Oh, you know what? I actually don't.
Yeah, but soccer doesn't require lifelong medical treatment.
Well, not
so-
at 5 years old either. I mean, we're not,
Right, but it's paving a road towards this, right?
no, it's not. It's just,
Well, that's what,
Talking about identity.
if you talk to detransitioners, they'll tell you they were influenced by others. The ones that realized they weren't really transgender, they'll tell you they had social influences about this. It was the idea that somebody else planted. it.
Again, you can pick the-
Like 1% then.
What's that?
Each transitioner is at 1%.
So we don't actually know what the data is for that. The 1% figure comes from a Cornell study that was actually an older cohort and not the current cohort. So these were more vetted. So we used to be more cautious about this. Like I said, the standards of care, you'd have to live as your gender identity. This used to be a middle-aged man phenomenon. Only in the last 10 years it's become like the idea of a transgender kid was something you never really heard of before 10 years ago.
but
These
that's
were middle-aged men
correlation,
that
not
were transitioned.
causation.
Well-
You can't call that causation that, somebody was, there might be correlation in someone's life to having had influences or,
That's just frequency illusion. Like, because I learned a new word and now I see it everywhere. Well, I learned a new term and now I see it everywhere.
Yeah, but there's a 4,500% increase in the UK, for example, right, in kids
Okay.
identifying as transgender. You look at the use of puberty blockers, you've got multiple thousands of percent of kids in the US doing it. It's never happened before. Yes, there's multiple influences, but this is an influence the school has, and it doesn't need to.
Or
right?
it's
You don't need, you don't need to
correlation,
teach
not
gender
causation.
identity in kindergarten. You can deal with it on a case-by-case basis.
Peripherally related to the discussion that's currently going on, but a little bit more focused on the policy. So you mentioned that Frederick County Public Schools does not have a curriculum in place as of yet. They've not implemented a curriculum relative to.
They don't have the
education.
lessons, they have the standards that say they will teach you about gender identity.
Okay, on the other aspect of what is shown here, my question is the policy in place and implemented that they will begin gender affirmation
Yes. 6 years ago.
without notifying parents?
Yes, 6 years ago.
Who evaluates the child for the gender dysphoria? in that
No
case?
one. I did a Freedom of Information Act request and asked FCPS, who might know, you got CC'd on these things. And I said, what psychological assessment do you do? None. They
So
just
who within the
accept it.
school system then makes the determination that this particular child is
Is really,
selected
there's
to
no,
be affirmed based on their
the child
gender
decides,
identity?
the child.
Child
The
decides.
policy is
But I
the
mean,
child.
somebody at the school has to basically say, all right, let's all get together and decide, this person's now going to go into this locker room, going to be able to play these sports, going to be.
Yeah, so
this.
they will put together some kind of like support plan for the kid. And
Do they put it in the form of an
I
IEP
don't
or
know,
a
I don't know
family
if it's done
support
in
plan?
I know that the names and pronouns are kept in a like non-official record in the guidance counselor's office, is what they told me, because I asked about like where is this recorded. So that's what I know. And then the idea is that enough staff will know that this child gets to go in the
So
sports.
they're doing this completely without notifying the parents?
If the child says, don't tell my parents. If the child says, I'm okay with my parents knowing, don't tell me. But if they say, I don't want it, it's a secret, which, those of us who've been on the opposite side of policy 443 have argued that violates parental rights. They should know that.
Yeah, but that was going to be.
Yeah.
Well, actually, policy 443 states that the child has to explicitly state that they want their parents to know. That's what the policy states.
Yes.
So if they don't say anything, this is not information that is just freely given to the parents. The kid has to say, please include my parents in this discussion. That's what the policy states. So
Now,
if it's a
now, we're told
conversation.
in practice, that's just have to ask, like, do you want to tell your parents? Like, that, we're told that they are supposed to ask them.
Why is that the case? It would seem to me that in any other type of a identification of a special need, that the parent would automatically be notified. Why is this being segregated separately?
In my personal opinion, it goes into giving the control to the child as to when they come out to their parents. So
Is there an
if
official policy on it?
Policy 443.
That is the
No, official policy on what the basis is of
No.
keeping
Oh.
this away from the parents, but unless the child specifically states, tell my parents.
Yeah, that is in policy 443.
Okay, and
Yeah,
that's just.
it's based, yeah, it's based off the Glisson, idea that you have a right as a child to privacy against your parents, and you need that private. There's no such legal right in reality in the law. We've asked multiple lawyers, but that is the idea that they have, that children have a privacy right vis-a-vis their parents to not tell their parents. But again, that's not established law. Actually, you're not allowed to change your name legally in Maryland without parental consent before you're 18 years old. Parents, and before 10, it requires explicit, and then after age 10, the judge can actually consider multiple factors when doing it. But
Yeah, I mean, it seems that there's a parental rights issue there.
that's been our biggest thing with all this. Because our point of policy 443 is, if you're a parent and you want to transition your child, hey, give the school written permission, go for it. If you don't, give the school a note that says, we don't want it to happen. I just think it should be up to parents. I don't think we have to take sides on this issue. Let parents raise their kids the way they want.
The rationale is that if you tell, or if the school tells a parent, and the parent reacts negatively, that impacts the child, and that becomes,
So you're saying there's a potential that the parent would be unfit in this situation?
yes.
It's not unfit, it's,
Well,
The child's
parents
not
either
ready to
unfit
have
or
that-
not, that's the law. We
Well,
have
it's
to
not-
demonstrate unfitness.
it's
Right,
not,
that's what our
it's
proposed
not
policy requires.
unfitness for, if there's a 14-year-old who has been a girl who doesn't have a home where she feels safe,
That
and then
has to be
she,
demonstrated according to the law.
No, sir, your point is what we,
I'm saying-
well, let's not debate it here,
Yeah.
but our proposed policy 445, it takes exactly your position, which is, like every other condition, parents are required to be notified, they've been found unfit, they get to go to court and argue about it, right?
it's not about unfitness though.
So, the next thing we want to show is that.
You're not unfit just because your teenager doesn't want to tell you
To
everything.
deprive the parent of their rights, that can be shown to be unfit.
But why is that
All right,
depriving?
well, you guys,
parents
hold on,
of
you guys
their
can
rights?
debate, let's debate me.
Sorry.
Let's debate me.
I'm running out of time anyway.
So, yeah, you guys have great questions, but I didn't intend for our presentation to go so long. So the kindergarten lesson, now, I'm not saying Frederick County is using this, in fact, I don't think they are, but this is an example of the Advocates for Youth, what they have proposed, specifically for Maryland, to be used all across Maryland as a lesson. So this is a kindergarten lesson, and it shows a penis and a nipple, like erogenous zone, I don't know why we're showing a nipple, anus, right? So a circumcised versus uncircumcised penis, pretty explicit, I would think. I didn't know about any of this, but this is literally kindergarten. Listen, you can do it. And these slides will be on the website if you want to see it later, so you can click on this stuff. And then for the female, same thing, right? Showing a vulva. I mean, I don't think I learned vulva until I was well into my 20s. So I don't know. Anus, right? So same thing. So you tell me, like, I think this is too much too soon for kindergarten. Some parents may disagree. My point is, I don't care where you go on the spectrum. If you're a parent that thinks this is perfect and kids should learn early, great. Like, let's let the parents that agree with that get those lessons for the kid. Let's let the parents that don't want that get those lessons. I really think that's the way to resolve the conflict. I feel like there's way too much conflict about a lot of these things. When we get into the school system telling parents, this is the way we do it, you have no choice, that's when the conflict happens.